Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys 1/6 scale die-cast Iron Man figure unboxing and review. Today, we're taking a look at the 2.0 version of the Mark II, based off its appearance in Iron Man 1. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. I've popped a link to their site in the description, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you decide to buy from them. While you're down in the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button, so you're notified as soon as a brand new Iron Man figure review goes live on the channel. A lot of us are guilty of claiming that the Mark III is the granddaddy of the MCU, the one that started it all. But it's the Mark II, isn't it? Because all the Mark III is a repaint of this suit. This is the real OG, and I cannot wait to get this guy out here. As for the box art, we've got an image of the actual figure up front with some little burning embers dotted around the place. Down below, Iron Man and Iron Man Mark II 2.0, done in this very shiny metallic silver foil. On the side of the box, some screenshots from the movie. This is from his garage, and then the first flight at the bottom, with a TV scanline effect over the top. I love it when they do that. Iron Man Mark II 2.0 once more, also in metallic silver foil for the side of the box. Around the back, their store locations, legal information, as well as warnings, with this little gem down here in the bottom corner, letting us know he contains button cell batteries. What are you going to do? Hot Toys are going to Hot Toys. Maybe eventually we'll get a 3.0 Iron Man Mark II and he won't contain button cells. I've got a question for you all watching. Do you prefer box art like this, with images of the movie on it? This is from the flight scene 2, I believe, when he's looking at the Ferris wheel as the kid drops the ice cream out of the cone. Or would you rather figure photography that's made to recreate movie scenes? I reckon I'd go with the latter, just because it feels more creative to me. The outer box is made of this very thick, sturdy cardboard, whereas the inner part is high-density styrofoam done in this dark grey, and we've got some sculpted detail on the surface with some techie bits and the arc reactor in the middle. It works just like a drawer. You slide that foam piece out of this cardboard box. Then they've sculpted Mark II 2.0 into the lid of this foam block. And holy shit, they were not joking when they said they were going chrome. This is the real deal vacuum metallized chrome. It is extremely shiny, and the figure himself is very heavy, and much larger than the other die-cast Mark II. What we're going to do now is get all of his accessories laid out in the light box and take a closer look at everything he comes with. Starting off with the display base first, it's technically reuse for the bottom portion, but can you even call it reuse if the figures that first introduced us to this base mold haven't even been released yet? Because that's exactly what's happened. The Flash movie figures were meant to be the first ones to come with this style of base mold, but they're not out yet, so instead they've used it for multiple Iron Man figures, and I can see why. The circular footprint means it looks exactly like an arc reactor. Perfect for Iron Man. And it's got an LED light-up effect. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. Tons of techie-style detail work around the edges, rivets and hoses and whatnot. Iron Man for the nameplate, nothing crazy, Mark II 2.0 or anything like that. They've kept it simple, just Iron Man, nice and shiny. And we've got some new parts up top. You can choose where you plug in these armatures. You've got a couple of different ports to go with. Check the instructions. They do a decent job explaining how to attach these. I prefer to angle them down and to have one sitting slightly higher up than the other. If you're planning on trying to get Iron Man to stand on these, I don't think that's going to happen. The hinges simply aren't strong enough. They'll give way as soon as you put any weight on them. For the crotch grabber, It's adjustable up and down, and they've painted the crotch grabber arm this time. I don't think I've ever seen them do that before, but it helps it blend in a little bit better with the base itself. They don't give you a USB-C cable, so it's BYO, but once you plug it in, flick the switch, we've got an LED effect around the rim of the base, and the arc reactor up top is fully illuminated. I plan on finding a way to have this base lit up all the time in the collection, because this looks sensational. We'll be going into much more detail on this Tony Stark head sculpt when we install it on the body. For now, just know that you get a fully unhelmeted Tony sculpt with an exposed skin tone single piece neck, and a rubbery collar piece that you have to use in conjunction with the sculpt so it doesn't look like he's got a massive neck inside the armor. The rest of this stuff comes in pairs. We've got two of the swap out shields. You can see how shiny that chrome finish is on them, and there's a ton of sculpt work on the surface. Two wrist-mounted rockets, they attach with magnets and clips. The trap-mounted articulated dart launchers / missile pods, which once again have been installed backwards. I'm starting to think that they think this is the correct way of doing it. The detail work around the back, not around the front. That simply isn't correct. Literally just look at the 1.0 diecast Mark II, 3, and the stealth armor. They were installed the right way around with the paint applications at the front. Some outer thigh armor pieces that look like they've sprung open. In reality, you need to install these little parts onto the armatures. They're held in place with magnets. Then some parts for the front of the thighs, they attach with magnets too. And finally, for the switch out armor plates, these bits go on the chest. The bottom one has this domed translucent arc reactor window, so it is going to magnify the arc reactor underneath it. There's no detail on the underside. They're attached with pegs, every single one of them. No magnets involved with these ones. I am worried about the durability of those pegs, just because vacuum metallized plastic does tend to be a little bit fragile. And lastly, some hands, the usual suspects really, these repulsor blasting ones with the curved hand armor. You can see how it kicks up at the bottom so you can angle these forward. Translucent repulsors. But paint applications are interesting. Instead of going full vacuum metallized chrome, the hands are done in the exact same flat, shiny silver metallic finish as the diecast Mark II 1.0. While we're comparing hands, where are the blast effect ones? The Mark II is known for that flight scene. In fact, they used pictures of that flight scene on the box, for crying out loud. But they took away the flight pose repulsor blasting effect hands for some unknown reason. Not the end of the world if you own that first release, because you can just grab those hands and install them on this guy, no problem. They're compatible, and the finish is the same on the hands anyway. It's just the armor that's different. These ones are the articulated finger hands. I'm probably going to go with these on my copy in the display. The last pair of hands, two closed fists, already installed on him right out of the box. What we're going to do now is get the 2.0 Mark II itself out here. Standing straight up and down in the light box, no crazy poses or accessories or anything like that. The glare is a problem. We're in a light box. Maybe I should have gone with a black background. White is my style. That's what I usually go with. I've tried to light him in a way that you can see every panel as he's rotating. Proportions, he looks like a dude in a suit, so realism is there for me. He's bigger than the diecast 1.0, you'll see that in comparisons. But let's be honest, the real reason why we're here is the chrome. They said they would do chrome, not metallic silver, and they delivered. Chrome is exactly what they gave us. He's shiny, he's reflective, there's a sheen, there's a luster to the chrome. It's not something that you can really see on camera. You have to see it in person for it to come across properly. It's not a cheap Happy Meal toy looking vacuum metallized chrome. This feels high-end, and it looks it too. Up close and personal, kicking things off with Iron Man's helmet. Before we do that, actually, Yes, you can see me in the reflection. I like to stay out of my own videos because it's about the figures, not me. Nobody wants to see me. But with mirror chrome figures like this, it's unavoidable. You're just going to see me in the reflections. Anyway, his faceplate is removable from the helmet. There is some sculpted detail underneath it. It's not really painted, if you don't count the vacuum metallized chrome. And I've got the LEDs turned on button cell batteries in the exact same way as all of the other die-cast Iron Man figures. The interesting thing about the finish, particularly for the helmet, is it's not just chrome. It's vacuum metallized, then there's some airbrush shading in certain places, just to add some more grit and surface detail. But my favorite part about the way this thing has been painted is every single one of the rivets has been picked out in black paint. That would have taken someone at the factory ages to do, but it's worked. This guy looks so much better because of it. Even around the back on the neck piece, underneath the helmet, there's some extra sculpt detail there that's hidden away unless you have him looking all the way up these interlocking armor plates. The neck is articulated, there's a ball joint underneath it. You'll see what I'm talking about when we get to the articulation segment. I'm curious to find out what the new Tony Stark head sculpt looks like on this body, so let's give that a go. Oh, that's a good sculpt. In fact, no, scratch that. That is a great Tony Stark sculpt. From every angle, I can see the likeness to RDJ. The messy hair look just works so nicely for the Mark II. And he's got a single piece neck, which means the skin tone and skin texture match between the head sculpt and the neck is on point. No complaints with the way this head sculpt looks. Except, it's not really accurate, now is it? We never saw Tony, unless I'm misremembering, like this, with his helmet fully off. Whenever he was wearing one of the earlier suits, he looked more like this. The faceplate popped up, and we saw his head inside the helmet. So, why the change? Like, I don't have an answer. That's not a rhetorical question. I'm genuinely curious. Why have we gone from helmet sculpts like this, which is arguably more accurate, to full head sculpts which aren't? Please, if you know, weigh in down in the comments. Detail-wise, the skin texture, the subtle vein work, the moustache, the goatee, it's all impeccably well done. Even how they've disguised the seam for the back hairpiece. If I hadn't have just shown you that, you probably wouldn't have been able to pick out that seam, at least not easily if you weren't looking for it. Taking this off, now we get access to the moving eyes around the back. You can use the included tool if you so choose, or your finger works in a pinch. You don't have to always grab the tool. I'm a fan of some side eye and a head tilt forward. I'm going to try this head sculpt on a couple of different suits and Tony Stark bodies in my collection. I'm not sure this sculpt on this body is the combo I'm going to end up going with. This is why moving eyes are a must for every sculpt. It makes them infinitely adjustable. You can use the expression to your advantage. Completely change the look of the expression on a head sculpt simply by moving the eyes around. Before he looked pissed off, now he looks a little bit cheeky perhaps. And I've just now noticed they've hit the high spots for the strands of hair sculpted in with almost like a brownish gold dry brush. That way it doesn't look like he's got shading or blonde tips or anything. It just comes across more natural, as though his hair has a shine to it. And now he's angry again, the eyes looking up through the furrowed brow, the fringe hanging down, the head sculpt forward. I was not expecting this today. I didn't think we were going to get one of the best Tony Stark head sculpts just casually with a die-cast Mark II 2.0. Considering the sculpt we just got with the Suit Up Mark VII, that one wasn't fantastic. Now, I didn't show you how to install the sculpt, but I can show you how to remove it. The first thing you want to do when you are popping the Tony head on there is install this faux collar piece. It's quite long. You wedge it in at the back first, then you push it down at the front. There's a peg, it'll connect up, and when it won't go down any further, that's how you know you have it connected correctly. But reinstalling the helmet, easy as. Just pop it right back on there. Now we've got him back to stock. It's the little clever innovations. Underneath this panel, there's some sculpted detail on both sides, but there's some writing there. Because that is the power button for the arc reactor. They've hidden the power button in the sculpted detail. I remember back in the day, there used to be these hideous little switches that were very visible right on the back of Iron Man figures. They've come a long way with something like that. Underneath these outer flaps, we've got the honeycomb real metal panels. They're separate pieces that are articulated. Then we've got some extra flaps on the outside. This bottom part you can remove. That's where they've hidden the battery compartment. Just watch out for the pegs. They feel a little bit fragile. One more thing while we're back here, another little innovation. This one they stole from ThreeZero. They've been copying ThreeZero's homework when it comes to their DLX scale die-cast transformers. When you crunch Iron Man all the way forward, some extra hidden inner suit detail is revealed. They've even gone so far as to hit that with a lighter silver dry brush. Back around the front, I apologize for the glare and the fingerprints. People have told me to wear gloves. I don't like wearing gloves. I want the tactile sensation of feeling the cold touch die-cast in my hands. And trying to remove panels with gloves on, not something I'm interested in doing. Fiddling around with bits on camera for ages because the fabric for the gloves is getting caught, I'm not about that. Removing this chest panel, there's some fully sculpted and painted detail underneath it, and that detail continues underneath these articulated panels. This was something they introduced with the Diecast Mark III 2.0, and I'm glad to see it return here with the Mark II, because if you've got him in a pose where he's testing all the flaps and the control surfaces, you're going to want to open up little bits like that, and luckily now you can. It's the collarbone struts. I don't know why. I can't explain why. I've always been enamored by this visible mechanical detail work for his collarbones. That disappeared with later suits, but it was there for a while. And now seeing it in shiny vac metal chrome, they look better than ever. I'm trying not to say hidden detail too many times, just one or two more, I suppose, underneath the bicep guards, some hidden detail. This is the battery compartment for the light up. Instead of just leaving that blank, unpainted black plastic, they thought, you know what, it's going to be visible anyway, we may as well just fully detail it. One massive complaint I have, and it's not actually massive, but it's the one overarching complaint on this piece. I mentioned it in passing in the accessory segment. Let's dive in a little bit deeper. It's the flat silver. You see it, yeah? On the inside of the elbow joints, for his hands, around the back, on the legs, all flat silver, and that stuff is quite visible. It's right around the front. Not to mention if you're using the collar piece, it too is done in flat metallic silver. Eyesores, yes. Deal breakers, probably not. You've likely noticed me adjusting armor bits as we're looking at him. That's to keep the gaps to a minimum. If you let the shoulder pads fly away, or these pieces move around on you, or the other bits stick out, you are going to see gaps. It's going to be a game of managing where those gaps appear so that he looks more realistic. Seeing some gaps underneath his arms, that's fine. But seeing these posts and the gaps top and bottom making his arm look very skinny, not so much. He almost looks like an old school airplane with that wind burn effect on the edges of the panels. You can see it where the rivets are on the legs, for example, on the ab section. It's a subtle thing, but I'm so impressed with the paint applications on the top of the shiny chrome finish. His hip skirts are articulated, and you can pop out the flare canisters. The flares haven't been painted, and you can't extend out the bit that he grabbed onto to solve the icing problem mid-air. He later solved it with a paint app, of course, but these flare canisters can be extended if you want them to be. Coming down to the legs, so mechanical, the visible seams and the rivets and whatnot, the suggestion of the curves for the legs. This is why I fell in love with Iron Man. Seeing this suit on screen for the first time, the suit up, the flight, it was badass. I apologize for the fingerprints, by the way. I've been trying to wipe him down between takes. He's just chrome. There's nothing I can do about it. These front panels for the legs are removable and they're die cast. Then we can open up these ones. Little clips made of plastic. That's making me quite nervous. Flicking the switch, the real reason why we took these off. Reconnecting everything. Coming down to the bottom part of his legs, we can open these up, exposing the inner workings of his jet boots, which are now fully illuminated, but that is being achieved thanks to button cell batteries. There's some awesomeness happening right here, with some archaic, old school button cell battery technology. If this was USB-C powered, and I could have all of this stuff open and illuminated permanently all the time, I would. I'm hoping fusion reactors give us some kind of upgrade that'll make that possible. Look at those geometric, chonky, blocky feet with some fully sculpted tread on the underside. These panels that flare out on either side cannot have been easy to work with when it comes to the actual suit on set. RDJ wore an upper torso for some shots, but in others there was a real deal, full head-to-toe practical Iron Man suit that both he and his stunt double would have to walk around in. A nightmare, I'm sure. Let's try out some of the additional weaponry, starting off with the trap-mounted missile pods or dart launchers. They've reversed them, like I said in the accessory segment. I still firmly believe that the gold pins should be facing forward. That's the way they've done it previously. That's how I was expecting them to do it with these 2.0 figures. They decided to flip them round, which doesn't make any sense. To install them, you remove the existing magnetic panels and pop these ones on. Gauntlet rockets, straightforward, take off that panel. We've got the magnet and some guiding pins. Installing that on there. Does it look like the rocket has popped out as these panels have sprung open? 100%. The shield I see more so as a Mark III thing, an iconic accessory for that suit. For the control surfaces test, I do want to have him wearing it on one side, so I'll have the shield on the right and the missile sticking out on the left. Let's do the chest armor, taking off the full one. We'll install left and right first, I think is probably going to be the easiest way to do this. They're quite loose on those pegs. Maybe I haven't pushed them in all the way. I'll check that in a second. So left and right are now installed. Lastly, we can grab the bottom piece, plug it in place, giving it a solid push. Now he looks like this. The legs are the scariest bits for me, taking off these die-cast panels, then removing the outer ones in the same order that we'd have to do it to get to the light-up effect. We can grab these, push them in place. If stuff falls off, it's fine. We'll fix it after. They're on magnets anyway. Install the front ones. Et voila! Oh, and I've reinstalled those panels exactly as I said I would. Now I need to do it on the other side. Did I just unlock my new display option for the Diecast Mark II 2.0? I think I have. It's so scene-specific, seeing all of these panels popping open, revealing all of the stuff underneath them. Seeing extra detail is never a bad thing. The only bad thing about this as a display option is he's now terrible to pose and to handle. If you grab onto his legs, this stuff is going to fall off. Front panels fall off constantly. His chest is sprung open, so this you don't want to put any pressure on. But I think it's worth the trade-off. Seeing Tony in the Mark II for the first time and now being able to represent that in the collection in 1/6 scale, it's almost like one of their suit-up figures and a new diecast release all rolled into one, which isn't what they usually give us. 9 times out of 10 with those suit-up figures, I don't actually end up displaying them. This is going in the collection. For a quick side-by-side comparison, I was not expecting there to be this much in it between the two. On the right, that isn't the original Plastic 1.0. That's not the Armor Unleashed. That was, up until the release of this new one, the most up-to-date Mark II that you could buy from them, the Die-Cast 1.0. He's shorter, his proportions don't look anywhere near as realistic, and the finish. It's sad looking. He's dull and he's lifeless. There's no shine or luster on the surface. You could say that the new one has gotten overcorrected by using real chrome versus a brushed metal look. No matter which way you look at it, the new one is more realistic, more accurate, and more proportionate, more imposing than the original Die-Cast 1.0 was. The Mark III Die-Cast 2.0 looks taller than the Mark II. Ignore that. Look at the shoulders, look at the traps, they're the exact same height. It's just the Tony Stark head sculpt with the skin tone neck that's giving him an added height boost. These two are mold buddies. They share a lot of the same engineering and a lot of the same armor pieces, except for the ones with rivets on them. They look incredible standing together. If you're putting together an Iron Man 1 display, I don't think you can go with the original Die-Cast Mark II. This new one is a must-have. Going over articulation, starting off with his helmet. There's a ball joint at the base of the neck, then another ball joint underneath the helmet. It's also on a hinge. Looking forward to there, going up to there, plenty of range for a flight pose. It does get gappy, you'll have to manage that. Swivel, and a little bit of pivot side to side. Move the shoulder pads out and extend the arms out too, just so that nothing is colliding and you're not causing scratching or just damage in general. The arms will go forward and back on a ball joint, so they hinge up and down a little on that joint, more so on the butterfly, but we'll get there. Going up to there, watching out for that shoulder pad. Don't love the way that just collided. Then for the butterfly, it hinges forward and back mostly, but up and down a little. Swivel at the bicep, double bend at the elbow, going to about 90. Then for the wrist peg, it's a big honkin' ball joint. I'm eternally grateful for the Mark III 2.0's torso engineering. No longer do we have to grab him and extend him down. You literally just crunch him forward. Going to there, going back, not so much. Swivel, and a little bit of pivot side to side, mostly from the upper torso. Always move the hip skirts out of the way first. They're on these fragile little hinges. Then you can drop the legs down on these clicky ratchets. Going forward and hinging out at the same time. Going out to there. Swivel at the upper thigh. Ratcheted double bend at the knee, going to 90. Then a series of joints down here for the feet. Good for forward and back rotation and some ankle tilt. The side flared out bits do restrict that. And lastly, toe articulation. Moving on to the 3 cool and 3 annoying things. The first annoying thing is, how do you go almost entirely chrome? The figure is 99% vacuum metallized paint, but then we've got a couple of pieces just done in metallic silver, and that just simply isn't good enough in my opinion. Everything should have been chrome so that everything would have matched. The second annoying thing really pisses me off. That right there is not my fingerprint. It's not a fingerprint at all. Well, it is, but it's a super glue fingerprint. Someone at the factory was not wearing gloves, they touched super glue, then they touched this armor plate. That isn't going anywhere. It is now permanently baked into the surface of this armor piece. I hate it. I wish I could do something about it. There's really nothing that can be done to fix it, and at this price point, that's unforgivable. As are button cell batteries, the third annoying thing is it's a 2.0 in name only. We don't have any USB-C powered light-up effects for Iron Man himself, and they've not even given us accurate accessories like a flip-up faceplate Tony Stark head sculpt or any blast effects. But the worst part about the batteries is they didn't even give me fresh ones. This one is rusty, and some of the other ones are straight up leaking already, right out of the box, brand new. The first cool thing, I love that they're doing this. They've copied 3.0 with their DLX scale transformers. there's some hidden, fully sculpted and painted detail underneath these armor plates that only reveals itself as you crunch him forward. The second cool thing it really should have been, but I want to stress that this helmet is not included with this piece. It comes with the original die-cast Mark II. If you plan on keeping that one as well as this new one, well, you're in luck. This helmet is perfectly compatible with this body. It pops right on, no problem. And considering some armor pieces are painted in flat metallic silver anyway, yes, there's a mismatch between the chrome armor and the helmet. From a distance, it's not that egregious. I was dying to try this. The third cool thing is, with the new Mark II, we're getting one of the best Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark head sculpts to date. And it's compatible with the mech test body. This figure was announced at a bit of a weird time for them. They hadn't quite decided what their moving eye strategy was, whether they were going all in on it or not, so he simply didn't get them. But now, thanks to the Mark II, he does have moving eyes. I reckon this head sculpt has now found its permanent home. It's slightly large on the body, but in a pose, I don't think it's going to throw anything off. Wrapping up on the new die-cast Mark II, aka the 2.0 from Iron Man 1. They delivered the goods. This is exactly what I was expecting, and they delivered to the level that I was expecting them to. He's tall, he's proportionate. The accessories are fantastic. They add so much surface detail, and they expose detail underneath the surface even. But it's the chrome. That's why you'd get this. If you have the die-cast 1.0 or the Armor Unleashed or the Plastic 1.0, no. They simply won't do. This is more movie accurate, it looks so much more visually interesting, and it's in scale with all of the more recent die-cast Iron Man figures. Not to mention the Tony Stark head sculpt. You come for the chrome, and you stay for that Tony Stark sculpt. The likeness, the moving eyes, the compatibility with the mech test body. I said I'd try it out on other Iron Man figures, and I'm going to. I'm probably going to film a separate video doing that because there are so many suits I want to use with that sculpt. For now, it's going on the mech test body. That might be one of the reasons to pick this up. In all honesty, that head sculpt is that good. So at the end of this, must have, hands down, Marks 1 through 3. They are essential Iron Man suits. Even if you're not a massive MCU Iron Man fan, 4, 5, 6, 7 onwards, up to 85, skip them. Just immortalize the Iron Man 1 suits, because that is the movie that kickstarted the entire MCU. So I reckon Mark II is worthy of picking up for that reason alone. Now, I got mine at a discount from Pop Collectibles. As always, do your own research, make sure you're comfortable before buying. I've included some links to their site in the description, along with the discount code Justin's Collection, for 5% off your order if you decide to buy from them. While you're down there, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.